everyone in this lobby right now will be in with a good shot at winning the entire event. Granted that the lobbies they can turn upside down, etc. here. So we are on the first carousel, guys. And again, we haven't gotten to talk about TFT recently. So like, what is your preferred item start right now?
I'm always a bow gamer, Wita. I've never changed any patch. I just go with bow and see what happens to me. So I'm not here to big brain it.
So you're like a Bowflex type of guy.
Yeah. I like to stay in fit, and that's why I choose Bowflex. Sponsor us.
Amazing. I mean, myself, I'm definitely a sword player because I just like to spam dark flight all day, every day. And
well, I was going to say because you're so famously warlike, Peter. You know.
Well, that too. I am known for breaking into places and overturning tables and starting fights, all with my trusty sword that I carry everywhere I go.
Alrighty, so look at this, right? Leona in a shop map.
Yeah, this could be an Astral start. It could be a Mirage start, depending on where Chuso feels like they're going. Having that double Kiana on the bench as well could just get an early 2-star and power through the early levels.
Ooh,
just like that.
I mean, you ask for it and it happens. I'd be fascinated to see. I mean, we've seen this from so many of our players. If they get an opportunity like this, they won't usually throw it away.
I love the fact that there's a guy in chat called Bow Flexing. Okay, that is amazing. Not gonna lie, that's amazing.
We Beetlejuiced him into existence.
Incredible.
That's amazing. That is honestly fantastic here, right? So, Chuso, yeah, talking about the Astral start.
Oh my god.
This could be an option right now. Also, like a lot of Tempest units. Also, not a mage. So, that's that.
Triple Tempest on the board there. Featherweights is an option, but I don't feel like there's a ton of compositions that are great for it right now. We saw, I think, already the best Featherweights game we're going to see. We saw Lamarpian take it with the Astrals, and I think that's enough Featherweights for me, personally.
We'll see. I mean, we've got the Sunfire board, which of course is generically powerful. So we've got Dragon Monster, we've got Tempest. This is an extremely unusual start from Juso here, but hey, maybe it's what they need. It's certainly the strongest board they can play right now.
We got to build different.
Finally!
He is just built different, right? Like, and we were talking about this. We want to see this all weekend, right? So, like, build different right now. It's still a bit up in the air in terms of like what you actually can play with, but very often it will just be like pairs of stronger units, and then you just slowly but surely try to find yourself some of those forecasts, like a Graves, for example. Nyla and Graves are pretty solid, duos to run. Saya has also been, a pretty good one, but again now she's taking some nerfs, so maybe not as good anymore. But like Graves and Nyla are still pretty good carries to end up on.
Such a risky strat as well. Like, I feel like Built Different is one of those augments where we've been talking about it and it has such high variance. If you hit those good individual standby units, that's fantastic. But if you can't, you are just completely out of the game.
Well, this is why it's so interesting, the choice of item early on the Hextech Gunblade. So we've got the extra health, we've got the extra attack speed, but no AP or anything similar. So this Vladimir is going to have to do an awful lot of work and presumably move towards a late game AP board as opposed to the AD we'd normally be expecting.
But that's kind of the issue right now with this kind of set and playing AP built different, right? Because like a lot of the dragons are like the primary AP holders. So like, yes, you have locks, etc., but you don't have, there's an Ari or something like that from an older set to really bring you through a Renata and stuff like that. Those like forecast carries, you don't have them because they're all tied up in Deja, Namsi, Aoshin, Asol, etc. And yes, you can play them without build different that don't necessarily need build different to be there. You still have to figure out a way to hold over those items from the mid game to those big late game dragons.
See if Lamarpin's able to do it. Very consistent player though, so I have faith in him.
These are two undefeated players I think up against each other right now. Lamarpin has got, of course, the immediate power, so stays up there. Tuso is also undefeated right now with Brank down the bottom, along with Majwara. So we are seeing a little bit of what we saw in our previous lobby, which is the two win-streaking players, the two loss-streaking players, and a big separation on the scoreboard.
has the potential for Dragonmancer here on the board here for Chuso, who also has been having some interesting games recently. Last game as well, I think his strategy was just complete loss streak down to 25 HP and nearly turned it around. So going for the win streak this game and running into Lumarpian, like you previously mentioned, Peter, these are the only two remaining 100% streaking players.
Let's see if the raw power built different can get the job done. That Lee Sin's pretty damn strong already. We can see Kiana into the backline. It's been an absolute menace. Doesn't quite get the double cast off. Lee Sin just trying to get the one more in. I think it's gonna still be incredibly close to the end. And no, even with all those early 2-stars, Chuso cannot make it happen. Drops down at 2-3.
We can see that Chuso ended up going pre-level instead of actually fully leveling, right? Whereas Lumarpian here knows that he needs to get through the early game. Right now, his augment is actually at its weakest point because they have made it so to build different now scales into the late game. So he needs that extra power in the early game to guarantee his win streak so he can play off that once we hit that stage 3 situation.
I'm looking now because we've lost most of the win streaks here, except for Lumarpian. I'm looking at the bottom of the board. The person who has been consistently loss streaking, Bronk. If everyone loses their 100% win streak, you've got to look to the bottom of the board because that's going to be defining the pace of the lobby now. Once you have those 100% streaks gone, that late game is going to be much less consistent. So I'm looking to see what Bronk's going to be playing as we get into the later stages. Looks like for the time being, getting ready for maybe another Darkflight game.
Yeah, that would be like what I was saying here as well, right? But made the clear choice of going to 30 instead of picking up the Aphelios in the shop, right? So looking for a few things here to fully accelerate him. Again, he doesn't need the Aphelios, right? It's not a key unit in the composition per se, right? It's not like he needs like 5 Aphelios or something ridiculous like that.
No, and up against the Marpin.
Not yet.
The build different is going to be, of course, keeping the win streak going for the time being. At least we would expect so. Maybe things are going a little bit sideways. We're getting a little bit close for comfort. But no, so we've got Brank on the loss streak with the Astral Gold flowing in as well. Very economically sound.
Yeah, he's 30 gold, level 4. Would have preferred to be like higher gold, obviously. You always choose. If you could be like 80 gold every time, you would obviously choose it, right? That is not the. It's like one of those things that's like, thanks, Captain Obvious, for pointing that thing out. I totally did not know that
100% correct analysis.
Yes, objectively true. But nah, it's one of those things where he needs to figure out where he's fully going. Oh, that's a so. But again,
okay.
as we were talking about with a build different the AP angle here, had this been a 4-cost AP carry of old, and not a dragon, this would have been a perfect slot in for the situation that he's kind of built for himself right now. But it's not going to be the case just due to how build different AP specifically works in this current set. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just means you have to kind of alter which route you can take.
I mean, we've got Guild in the set, so that is a trait that allows you to power up your other units, or maybe not making use of the build different. I guess the question I want to put to you guys at this point is, do we maybe see Lumarpian just using this build different for the win streak early on, and sort of treat it as a bunch of gold and a bunch of HP, and then move away from build different in the later game?
Not anymore.
Well, yes.
Because now he has lost that win streak like we were talking about earlier. Once he's lost that streak, once he's lost all of that free economy, we're going to be looking down at the bottom of the board to Brank to see the definition of the pacing of this game. But everyone else is going to have slowed down a little bit. Scapeus, though, only taken 1 loss, successfully win streaks into the Krugs.
Yeah, and this is going to be totally okay here for pretty much everyone right now, right? Like again, Brank, it's not like the situation that Lumarpian has built for himself is horrible by any stretch of the imagination. It's still fine. He can still play for it, especially if he ends up getting something like a double trouble or a second build different the next augment. Because again, mainly when you end up pivoting out of build different because you had build different 1 as the first augment, you're just playing that in the early game and you transition into like a stronger board, but actively sacrificing such a gameplay altering gold augment is it doesn't come without a cost.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of costs, let's check in on our economy. We can see, of course, we mentioned before, Brank is swimming in money at the bottom of the table with a big loss streak and a big bank balance. Skipper to the top with their streak almost as good, but not as flush with cash. They're spending a little bit of it to keep that win streak going.
Trying to figure out what to do with this Zippy. Scapeus, of course, one of our previous Golden Spatula Cup winners. If he's going to be able to pull this off, it is going to be the first time we've ever had someone take home multiple Golden Spatula Cups. So I gotta say, guys, I'm rooting for him. That sounds fun.
He also would have won 2 out of 6 Golden Spatula Cups. My maths are not good, so I'm just going to say 2 out of 6 and not transfer that over to percentages. I'm going to let someone who's a lot smarter than me do that instead. Isn't that just 33%?
It is. Yes, it is. I like that you took the risk, Guida.
Let's go. Math on broadcast. Never do math on broadcast.
Always dangerous.
I'd say of all the pieces of math I've heard done on broadcast, that's probably one of the ones which is a little bit more forgivable. I mean, yeah, it would be an amazing feat, and of course that means the space would pass down to the second person from the event. In that particular, it's unlikely but possible outcome. I mean, wouldn't it just be an incredible thing to come into the EMEA regional finals on November 4th and be 2-time champion where no one else had managed it before?
Kind of funny he decides to not opt in for the penitence. I was actually looking at the stats for this augment earlier on in my game because I had it offered to me and I actually was kind of forced to take it. That augment has incredible stats right now, and I was very surprised to see that. But again, it is a pretty interesting augment because of the fact, like, if you position for it, you can end up just disarming an entire front line for like a pretty decent amount of time.
I think it's around 2.5 seconds or so. If you can get that spread out across, that's a huge debuff, but you won't get it in this game. Scapeus keeping on their win streak. We're going to see Fabulotus with a pile of Jade stuff. We've got a Knife Edge and we've got the Ascension. Certainly seems like we've got ourselves some Jade Siphon on the cards.
Banana Bill's Banana Board is looking good this game. Coming out of last one, went for that Nyla early pickup and ended up going into a bizarre double trouble composition that seemed to work out well. And like I've been talking about this entire weekend, you'd love to see these newer players in the Golden Spatula Cups competing and finding success. Banana Bill has been doing exactly that with a wide variety of compositions. I like the augment choices. I like the item choices. They leave him very open and very flexible.
I say Shio, you in the shop here is not going to pick it up and says, you know what, I'm just going to skip this for now. And it kind of makes sense when you look at the items here, right? Like double giants there, rage plate, not exactly the Shio U items of dreams. And with an actively stacking Diamond Hands in the works here, it should be a pretty clear tell. He's probably looking to either play Sire or Deja. Could just be again another just 4-dragon situation going on here.
Check back in with our friend Zuzo, who is currently win streaking. Looks like they're building towards the carrying on building towards the Dragon Masters, but this Ezreal does seem to be pretty tricky to deal with. Doesn't have that much in the way of the HP, so will be able to get finished off. Banana Bill dropping a little bit further down the table. They are second from bottom, but nobody is as close to the Void as Brank on 27 HP.
This is, I mean, even for like a player that came up around like the Fates timeline, right, in terms of the French scene here, being at 27 HP, even though Brank does like to live on the brink of death, that's got to feel a little bit rough for him for sure here.
Yeah. Going to be a dangerous game that he's playing, but this is the kinds of things that we are expecting to see on a day number 3 for these competitions. Go all or nothing, and that's the best chance you're going to have. So I love when I see players going for these risks, going for these massive loss streaks, and trying to turn them around all in one go and get themselves the win, slingshot their economy forward that way. And I'm hoping, for Brank's sake, he's able to do that.
Yeah, the issue is for him though right now, as we are going to see his roll down, that at 27, he's about 3 losses away from facing elimination. That is not a lot of lives to work with when you are going to be entering that later stage of the game here. He's not seeing any of the dragons he would be aiming for here right now either. No Swain. I think that's the big one right now with the way he's kind of been trying to move this game along, and that is exactly what's happening here. So is this going to be enough to win a fight here? I gotta be...
What?
Am I curious? I mean, I guess it is, right? It should be.
This particular fight, I think so.
So I don't know quite why he decided to delete one of his units and not share any of the stats around, but I suppose on a loss streak, so maybe looking to extend that a little bit further. The awkward spot, of course, of Brank is they don't have the item they'd be looking to share around the Dark Place, even if they do manage to hit.
Survives.
Oh my god. I was sure this was going to save Frank. I was 100% sure that was a win. I was just like, yeah, it's just in Ezreal. You've got a Rengar right there. He's got a BF sword, but no. Somehow Brank is continuing that loss streak, still digging for anything to put into this composition.
Well, that's a Nile 2. That would be something to put into this composition, I am pretty sure. At the end of the day here now, Infinity Edge being picked up, Rel 2, the upgrades are being found, but again, we'll talk about this, there is no big Birdman showing up right now, so... I mean, maybe, I don't know, if Brank just needs to put some respect on Swain's name, but that's probably what is going to be in the works. The IE on the low star one as well.
I don't understand the logic behind not putting that Rengar as the sacrifice and spreading around the Infinity Edge, especially because you're going to have another Rengar to go around. I understand the utility of having both Rengars, but hopefully that lack of Infinity Edge on the 2-star Rengar isn't going to cause too many issues.
This could be finally the end of the loss streak. You can see the built different Vladimir is eventually going to fall over. We still don't know exactly what Lumapin is going to be doing longer term, but they have got big friends, so it's presumably going to involve something substantial.
Well, that's a dragon. But is it the dragon of choice?
Yeah. Not the one he's looking for, unfortunately, but that sure is a dragon. It's an option.
Well, I'll pitch you guys. Are we actually in... I mean, I know we've got an Infinity Edge, but are we actually in Darkflight at the moment? I mean, no, we are right now, but we don't have to stay here forever, particularly that if we don't turn up a good item here to share between them.
So I don't think so.
I love your optimism that you can kind of pivot out from this position. He has like... His economic situation is not very good, but however, finding that Swain is going to be a nice little boost to that, and they can now start to figure out where they are going to be going from here. Again, as you've been talking about, Peter, there's going to be no Darkflight essence to go around here, no good item to go around either, really. So the 4-2 situation is going to be really important here, as the board coming from Lumapin right now is going to be the interesting one here. It's going to forego the bonus on the 2 Evoker units here. I'm unsure if that's the correct way to go about it, but it does need to find a way to stabilize himself.
Frank did find an upgrade for that second Rengar, so they should be doing a little bit better. We check in with you, so this is going to be our friend Lee Sin getting that big kick. You see what that did, almost deleting the Zyra by itself, but not quite powerful enough yet to fully delete backlines. Still though, this is a very powerful Lee Sin. Given enough time, everyone will fall before them. It doesn't seem like he's taking enough aggro to stop him.
It's going to be a good board here from Chuso, able to find that win. And Chuso, turning around the game a little bit, had a stranger board start than we would have expected. Remember, with all those Tempests coming out, so seems to have dedicated himself to that Lee Sin. And now Lumapin left with his final augment choice of the game.
Yeah, and triple gold is probably one of the worst things that can happen to you when you are playing build different, because you don't have the option of getting more build difference to pair with it. And that right there is going to be one of the big things that is really going to end up impacting your chance of winning a game, because again, getting multiple build difference is one of the best ways for you to really look at winning. If you look at the win rate of build different and like the augments, like build different combinations are probably the highest win rate combinations out there when it comes to augment pairings, just because of like how powerful they are in combination with each other.
Mm-hmm. We have got a setup here with a couple of units, well, no, several units who can do very well without their traits. Of course, Graves, Yasuo, Anila as well, all capable of pushing out a lot of damage, but they're all low star. Lumapin is relying on keeping hold of that loss streak to get their economy back afoot and get those big units up to 2-star.
Feels like everyone's been kind of bouncing around the leaderboard this game, except for Brank, who's been consistently taking those losses, and as a result, I don't think anyone's economy is in a particularly strong state. Lumapin finally has turned around that board, established some strength now that he's got that Graves in there to provide damage threat.
Oh boy, Brank on the brink.
Close.
Does manage to get that final bit of damage in, so we've got... Okay, so tell me if I'm wrong, guys, but my understanding is you don't need to sacrifice a unit for Darkflight to get the HP. You get that just from having 6 Darkflight. In this case, we're literally losing Kiana and getting nothing out of it at all.
We should do. I could be wrong. Again, like I always have an item on when I do this. I just know by automatic that it's going to happen, right? We'll find that final upgrade for the Rengars here, I guess. Like one Rengar. He's going to be aiming for Rengar 3, and again, that could just be me being mistaken, right? Rengar 3 is the way to go right now.
We certainly don't have trouble.
What's interesting to me is that he passed up on the itis. He did pick one up. If you convert any items that are spawned outside of the standard item set, they will convert into the emblem that you're looking for as a Dragonflight player. So I'm wondering if he's going for the Rengar 3 just to free up the space to put in an itis and get that emblem later in the game.
I don't necessarily think so, right? Like, again, I think his number one bet right now will be something like a Chaos Dragon. Granted that he survives for that long to find something that's uncraftable, right? And that is the big if right now. Again, Brank, he's going to be looking for a cloak here to try to make himself. I expect the Rune's Hurricane. It is one of the best items for Rengar. Again, it's the HO thing where with backline assassins and single target damage carries. Holy. That's right, again. Single target damage carries. It gives them a different angle for them to approach their fights.
And certainly stops you from, not being able to access those weaker units. Let's check in with Juso for a second and see what they are up to. See that they've managed to get the Eye of the Storm, so we are fully committed here. This is a Dragon Master Lee Sin. This isn't just a path further on. We've seen Ao Shin, Dragon Master boards later on, but it doesn't seem like that's on the cards here at all.
Now, Rengar 3 found here as well for Brank. That could be the saving grace for him. And as we're talking about the Eye of the Storm, indeed, and it is going to be a very nice one. We saw this on day number 1, just how powerful this can be, but there is no extra Dragonmancer emblem to really elevate this composition up to like the higher plane. So level 8 here is going to be like integral to getting that 6th Dragonmancer online.
Needs some healing as well, as we can see.
Yes! Well, that's the whole thing. The other storm, you need to get the lightning strike before you get the bonus damage. So in this, right now, the Lee Sin's getting murdered way before that happens.
Yeah. Maybe a Bloodthirster off this upcoming dragon would be able to save him, and it seems like Brank's board was not able to stabilize even with the Rengar 3, and we already have someone going for the first dragon composition of the game. Mujiwara starting to roll down, has the Shyvana pair in shop should he decide to opt into it. It's looking likely at this point.
Looking pretty good. I mean, yes, it's absolutely run out of cash at this point, but they've got their loss streak, and they can presumably keep that loss streak going for a little while longer. We have got the Ao Shin instead in the shop ready to go. Item-wise, we've got a good selection of items for potential Ao Shin sitting on Deja right now.
Is it Deja 1 though?
It's looking a little better for Chuso now. No damage on the board to speak of for Mujiwara, which does contribute to that. Oh boy, there it goes. The Terra not going to be able to get a whole lot done, and Chuso will take a win there at the mere level 7. Oh, might just opt into this 25 gold.
Yeah, so while we were waiting for Mujiwara to make their decision of whether they want to loot the treasury of Mordog, looking at the bottom part of our standings right now, Lumapin and Mujiwara, number 1, number 2 in the overall standings right now. They're looking at an early exit, and what that means for the rest of the players in this lobby is it means for them that they could potentially put themselves within reach and like leave it all down to game number 6 to figure out who's going to take home the title.
And an update as well on our standings in this particular lobby is Brank is now gone from trying to turn Dark Flight into a recovery. Mujiwara said making good use of that money to get the 2-star Terran online to join the 2-star Shyvana. This seems like a board that is going to hit in time, and Mujiwara can really push the way back up the table.
They've been really consistent today. Coming out of this composition, they've pivoted into the multiple dragon setup several games and don't seem to have run into situations that we've seen from other players where they end up short on gold, end up unable to roll for their units. They seem to have this timing down.
Another player that's been really consistent with their composition. I feel like every time we've seen Muncher taught so far, it has been Deja that has been the carry of choice here, and pretty much just the vertical Deja aspect as well here. is going to be torn apart just for a second here. We're going to worth noting top of the leaderboards, well above 50 gold. Deja 2 looking like a clean transition to level 9 whenever they want to take it.
Got Banana Bill, who has got themselves a very healthy looking Xayah guild setup being put together. Of course, we saw them before bringing out some very unusual approaches, but going back to something a little bit more level. Fabulotus with Banana Bill tied on 43. Monsieur Top up at the top on 74. Everybody else on around 20. We could be in the area of seeing some players dropping along with Brank fairly soon.
Also, a bit of a transition here being made, right? Swapping out of the shapeshifters here and just going to get that Soraka on the board. Soraka is a very important unit in these types of situations because, again, this composition might not very often get themselves into a first place position, but when you have that early-ish Soraka, it really does help propel you into like at least a top 3.
Yeah, that healing is going to be really crucial, and I do want to highlight Fabulotus here, who on the day has been performing absolutely incredibly, but previously in the previous set at the Super Bowl didn't perform particularly well. This set has been struggling a little as well, so it's great to see him coming back from behind and putting up such a strong performance today. Always love a comeback story.
Another thing that I also want to highlight here again with Fabulotus, right, is that I feel like he's been playing a lot more EU West ladder recently and not been like confined to the Russian ladder. Where I think in the past there might have been a bit of a thing holding him back, where he's getting a lot better practice. Always see him towards the top end of the challenger ladder, and top end of the ladder is all going to be least in for Chuso now. It's going to be one hell of a ladder to climb, but he now does have what he needs to kind of elevate himself back into contention.
As we were talking about before, Matt, we're waiting to see the healing item coming in to make this Lee Sin almost unstoppable. The Bloodthirst has arrived. Lee Sin 3 has arrived as well. This particular kick isn't going to be the big impact one, but wait for kick number 2.
Might be. There it is. Oh my gosh! The one shot. All right. I wasn't quite expecting that, Peter. Were you?
Honestly, based on what we saw before, I mean, we did get to see that a few times.
It's true.
Nobody had an answer to this. Even with the Eye of the Storm, people were zephyring this Lee Sin up in the air.
Dragon Man's
spat.
Do it. Do it.
Chuso. This is a good option. Look at the 8 Dragonmancer. There it is. That's the pickup.
That's such a donation as well. Gotta thank Mordog for that one. Put him on the wall or something. I don't know. That is a gift from above.
Skipeus couldn't take one for the team, huh?
No.
I mean, what is Skipeus supposed to do? And it doesn't even matter. This is actually good for Skipeus, right? Because Skipeus is out of the pool of Chuso. So he does, because Skipeus knows that at 1 HP, he's probably not going to be in the game for long enough to fight Chuso for yet another fight. So he might as well just, give it over and try to further his own game plan as he's trying to make his way into a top 5 position. Hopefully for him top 4, obviously, but when he's on Aoshin 1, that is going to be quite the challenge.
Remember, everybody, that we are at table 1 in the penultimate round of the Golden Spatula Cup number 3. We are looking for a champion here. Skipeus threatening to go 2-time champion, but they have got Mujiwara, who has been the terror of this lobby to deal with.
He's got his work cut out for him. You can see that Graves already about to get taken down. A good Bard ultimate into the back, but it's not going to save him. And Skipeus is bored without that Aoshin popping off. He's going to fall in 7th place.
You see the Dragon's Claw in there, the big troll of all these AP comps. As we see Chuso, thumbs up, soldiers! It is going to be an absolute menace to deal with. The Lee Sin, you saw there actually, Chuso, I think, are very aware that this Eye of the Storm limits your strategic options dramatically. Actually move Lee Sin away to presumably avoid getting zephyred.
I think one of the things I want to highlight about this composition as well is, yes, 100% what you were saying earlier about the positioning. That is the struggle with Eye of the Storm, but you're seeing how well it matches into compositions like that Xayah that can only do chip damage, while the Lee Sin can just 100% assassinate your carry.
Here we have Lumapin. He's been streaking so far with this build different board now. Big Friend and Ascension, these fights are guaranteed to go long.
I love this position for Lumapin. They separated out the backline on the opposite vector from the front line, so the Lee Sin can't kick into the backline as they'd like to, which should slow down the comp a lot. I still don't know if it's going to matter, but maybe it will. The Lee Sin drops. We've finally seen someone figure it out.
Nyla lived with a single-digit health total, and that meant Lumarpin's board stayed alive. Chuso barely avoiding elimination, now down to single-digit HP. The next round, the next PvP round at stage 6 will likely decide our top 4.
And that's kind of why, like, I just love Big Friend as an Augment, right? And we kind of see it here because it's not flat resistance, it's straight up damage reduction. So there's not going to be like static shifts or last whisper or something. That doesn't have an impact on it. It doesn't matter, right? And we kind of see like how close some of these fights are going to be, because there's like the smallest things in the world can really end up being game defining when you have that augment going for yourself. And speaking of, Banana Bill right now chasing that Sippy free here, but it's still left wanting just a little bit.
Oh, come on. Nope.
Oh,
he found it.
That's the Sippy. That's
He's got it. The
free.
duplicator.
Is he not going to use? Oh, he might be waiting.
He's waiting to chase it. Again, people can scout his board and look at it, but they're not going to get the little ticker on their right side of the field. They're not going to pay attention to it. They're going to realize, as it is going to be too late here. Sippy free could be defining right now.
This is absolutely huge.
He has the chance to dive into the backline onto that Deja, instead goes onto the Twitch, but look how much damage each and every auto is doing. Those ultimates one-shotting everyone nearly, but I don't even think it's going to be enough. As Zippy falls and Banana Bill with him, we nearly have our top 4, Lumarpin, Chuso, down to 4 HP, only 5 players left in the lobby.
Graves 2 though for Lumarpin, that is going to be a big one here. Fabulosa's on a big roll down as well, as he was going to hold those dragons and figure out what he needs to do here. Fabulosa with Yvara and Munchatot they do have a pretty good life total to work with between them, all 3 of them, right? Like, they have at least 2 lives before they even had to, in compared to Chuso and Lumarpin, who's guaranteed on 1 life right now.
Remember where these players are. Of course, Lumarpin comes in with the top points in the tournament right now, 26 above everybody else. If they can get a strong finish here, they can keep their spots at the very top and deny all others. Fabulosus has got an incredibly strong CEO on the backline. It's going to be an absolute massacre, though. You know, it's the backline trying desperately to stay alive. It's knocked to pieces. And surely it's all over now. Lumarpin will not be able to break top 4.
So close. Chuso, fight going well on that end of it. Never mind, he gets taken out. Lumarpin by 2 HP, just a sliver, able to hit top 4.
And now it's down to these 3 people between us. It's worth noting here as well, Fabulosus was 1 and 2 players on 25 points going into this game, together with Mujiwara. So both of them right now, as you've been talking about, guys, has the option of just running away with the title, making themselves the favorites right now, right? Because if Munchatot, ends up finishing second here and either of the other players finishes first and third, that is going to create this points divider going into the last game, and that is going to be incredibly interesting to figure out.
Yeah, for Top, they have got to do well. They're the lowest, one of the lowest points along with comparison rank in this particular lobby. 22 versus the 26 points. Get 8 points for a first. This start needs to get that to happen. The Deja is doing pretty damn well. That's a whole heap of firepower. In comes the Xiaoyu straight to the face. And 1 shot is good enough. Fabulosa survives.
However, next round, if Fabulosus takes a loss, could be their very last loss here in this lobby. So needs to be very careful. And this is a hell of a carousel to end with.
Absolutely. Again, when you have people that are on straight up dragon boards, right? Always seeing these dragons can always be a little bit scary if everyone knows in the lobby, because like that could just be the free dragon upgrade they've been looking for all throughout the game here and now. And that cloak as well is going to mean that there's going to be a Zephyr now being put into play by Fabulosa to try and gain those minor gains that could potentially swing the fights, get that Terror knocked up in the air, try to ensure that everything else is going to be fully waiting here. And again, this board is strong, but is it strong enough? We've seen him just lose here. He's been going win-loss here. Final life potentially for Fabulosa coming up right now.
Okay, watch this effort to start off the fight. We'll pick up the Terra, as you mentioned, Wida. And the Hecarim not going to be able to get in the way. Shyvana starting off with the blue buff, dives into the backline, finds the damage. Deja uncontested as Siphon just jumps away from the damage threat on Mujiwara's board. And Deja free fires away into the front line of Fabulotus. But the Xiaoyu still surviving. One more wave from Deja will be enough. And Fabulotus goes down to the top two. Mujiwara versus Monsieur Tart.
Just imagine if that Siphon had been the Xiaoyu instead. What a different world we'd be looking at. But Monsieur Tart, as you said, they are the player who needs most to finish first in this lobby. They seem to be on the path towards it. Mujiwara has done an incredible job, but now they've got to get through a whole heap of mirages.
Yeah, and again, we've been talking about this from the past. Again, look at it. The double spats coming through, really helping to amplify this, putting towards the 8 point here as well. Could be the game deciding factor right now.
Mujiwara has got all the damage in the world. Keep your eye on that Deja. As long as she survives, Hope does as well. We've got the double Deja from both sides of the board, pouring the firepower in right into the corner of Mujiwara. I think it's going to be over just that quickly. Mujiwara gets the win against Monsieur Tart. Something needs to change in the next round.
It's 2 rounds left. We'll see what item they get.
Dual Lotus and QSS here, so the QSS probably not that impact. We would like to see like a utility item, the Zeeks, Shroud, stuff, but those types of items are not really going to be the case for either player though. The Dual Lotus can at least find its home on the board of Mujiwara, onto the Jace, for example, is add an additional damage threat to the board, even though it doesn't really feel like it needs it at this point, but you might as well take every little bit of damage you can get.
All right, guys, we're building up towards the end of Game 5. What are your instincts? What are your feelings? We've got Bard 2 joining the mix to try and mix things up. Do you think Mujiwara's got enough to take it over the line?
I think it's gonna be. I've got faith in the Dragons.
But there's literally dragons on both boards, Matt.
Hedge your bets, hedge your bets.
We don't talk about that.
It's like rooting for the ball, Matt. Well, let's see who is going to be kicked into the opponent's face and out of the game as we are going to approach the final fight of the game.
Don't root for the ball, root for the baller. Mujiwara coming in with the Dragon, the Shyvana ultimate to take it off. Watch that Deja in the backline, going to decide it all. She's stunned up once, stunned up twice. One wave comes out behind her, but it's not enough. Shyvana fires away. Monsieur Tart takes the loss, and Mujiwara tops the charts going into game number 6.
It's a good day to be at Morgan. It's a good day to be a fan of Egyptian TFT. What